Chris Watkins from Your Black World, and I wanted to take a second to share a thought that I had just now while I was eating breakfast. I am right now in South Africa. I'm in Pretoria, South Africa, which is right outside of Johannesburg. It's been an amazing trip. I had a great time. I spoke at the University of South Africa, which is a huge university. It's been around over 140 years, I think. I highly recommend that you take a visit. Today I'm going to Botswana. I'll be glad to tell you about Botswana as well. And the other thing I want to tell you about Africa is that, in case you don't know, Africa is a continent that has a lot of diversity, a lot of different kinds of people. So don't let racist media tell you what to believe about the country from which you came. Come over here and see for yourself, and then you can learn what Africa's about. And I think that you'll probably feel a sense of warmth in certain parts of Africa where you will just you'll be able to be in places where you're judged by who you are as opposed to the color of your skin, which I think really goes a long way. Now, one of the topics I wanted to hit real quick is this issue that we talked about at the conference recently about universities and racism, and how so many universities just don't hire or give promotions to African American professors. And to give you an example, Elena Kagan, one of the President Obama's appointees to the Supreme Court, she was the dean at the Harvard Law School for 6 years. She interviewed or hired 32 people, and during that time, 30 of those 32 people were white males. One was a white female, one was an Asian, and here's the crazy thing: a lot of people can see those horrible numbers, those disparaging numbers, those very insulting numbers, and say, "Well, that has nothing to do with racism. It's all because there's not one qualified black person on the planet who would have been good enough to get that job." And I think the idea that people are so arrogant to say that we've searched high and low, we can't find one black person on earth smart enough to do a job that's been done by thousands of white men. Well, that's absolute nonsense. It's the most racist, most ignorant thing the person can say. But that's what people say all the time. That just kind of tells you about the depth of the racism that exists in the United States. In case you're not aware, the United States is not the greatest country in the world. It is probably the most racist country in the world. Most statistical indicators show that in the United States there are two tiers of existence: one for whites and one for blacks. When you look at economic systems, educational systems, criminal justice systems, black people are kind of forced into the basement. And in fact, the United States actually incarcerates more of its citizens than any country in the world. And it also, the majority of those citizens are in a small group, African American males. In fact, South Africa, which was the home of apartheid, remember, apartheid was a very complex legal system that separated blacks and whites. South Africans look at America's criminal justice system and they say, "Oh my God, what in the world is wrong with you people?" Because we actually incarcerate far more times more black men in America today than South Africa did even during the height of apartheid. I always talk about Nelson Mandela, and I say that, Nelson Mandela, he advocated for armed resistance against a racist government, and they still didn't kill him. They put him in prison, which was supposed to be for life, but they eventually let him out and he became president. That couldn't have happened in the United States because the United States would have killed Nelson Mandela the same way they killed Martin Luther King. And if you don't know about the government killing Dr. King, I encourage you to Google that. There's a lawsuit that proves that proved in 1990 that the government, your government, killed one of the greatest, most respected black leaders in the history of the United States, and he wasn't even violent. Imagine if he had advocated for violence as well; they definitely would have had him killed. So, America, the racism is ridiculous, and the racism is reflected in many of the institutions in this society, largely because we don't address it. The racism in America gets worse because we refuse to even confront it or acknowledge it. And so, one of the things I want to give you in terms of a pointer today is to really, sometimes we become so immune to being treated like second-class citizens. We're so accustomed to it that we don't even point it out or notice it when we see it. We're brainwashed to always find the alternative explanation. Well, the reason that only white men have gotten this job is because white men are smarter, white men are more ambitious, black people are lazy, black people are doing this wrong, that wrong, and this wrong, and it goes to the top. You even heard our president, speak to black people in a way that's very different from the way he speaks to whites. He never goes to gay rights groups or women's groups and and speaks to them in terms of saying you're responsible for your oppression. But he does that to black people on a regular basis. That shows you how deep the racism goes in the United States. Now, in terms of knowing how or figuring out how to know if your job or your institution is racist, the measuring sticks are pretty simple. When you're talking about a job, look at higher level management on in that company that you work for. If they don't have any black people that have senior positions in that company, or if they've only had one out of say 30 or something like that, that's racism. That's very clear racism. They've been hit by institutional racism. If you go to a university and you never have a black professor outside of African American studies, then that's racist too, because that means that black faculty are being blocked out of all the other departments. In addition to that, many universities have never given tenure in certain departments. They've never given tenure to an African American. And the thing is, they want you to believe that black people don't work hard enough, black scholars aren't smart enough, there aren't enough black scholars out there, and that's just not true. There are many, many black scholars who try their hardest to get these jobs, to get these promotions, but they get consistently denied, consistently told that the reason that you can't get this opportunity is because either A, you're not good enough, or B, you haven't assimilated enough. You haven't become enough like us to get this promotion. And I know this firsthand. I went through this with Syracuse University, and I just said, I'm not going to play your game. When I applied for tenure, I did it because I had to, and I just told them, I said, I don't care if you give me tenure, because you have a department that has existed for 100 years. The department I was in, which was finance, I said, and you have not given a promotion to one black person in 100 years, and you want to act like the problem is me, like there's something wrong with me? No, there's something wrong with you. Because not only are you a bunch of bigots, but you also don't have the qualifications to evaluate what a good black scholar even looks like. Because I know I'm not the first smart Negro to ever apply for this job, but you want to convince me that if I play the game and if I behave and if I'm quiet and stop doing what I'm doing on CNN and stop speaking about this racial stuff, that somehow you're going to let me in and take care of me. And I know that that's not true, because so many black people get convinced that selling out is your salvation. And and then what happens is they sell out, and then they get screwed, and they end up bitter and angry, feeling like the $2 hooker who didn't even get the money on the dresser at the end of the night. And so what I would say to you is that when you see this racism, I encourage you to find ways to speak up about it. One of the ways that you are most protected against racism as a black person in America is you've got to realize that your economic security is part of your self-defense. Don't get tempted to give all your money away to white people and to these corporations that want to sell you stuff, these European brands that will never hire a black person. Make sure you save your money. Every black person in America should know how to start their own business, even if they work for somebody else. You should never ever go broke because a white man won't give you a job. Do you understand how pathetic that sounds? Do you understand how weak that is? That we wait for our oppressor to feed our children. That you'll never be empowered if that's the way you think. So to say that I'm going broke because a white man won't give me a job, that's like saying I'm starving to death because nobody will bring me food. That means you're weak. You need to learn how to grow your own food. You hunt your own food. You can cook your own food, and you can feed your family as opposed to depending on somebody else. We must have economic security in order to overcome racism and oppression. If we do not have a commitment to cooperative economics and various forms of economic security, both personal and collectively, we will always end up being screwed in America. So, when you look around, if you are a college student or if you went to college, ask yourself one day, I'm talking about the professor thing again, ask yourself, how many black professors have I had in all the years that I was in college? Why did I not feel like I should have more black professors? Ask yourself when you go on that job, how many black people have they had in managerial positions? Why is it that there are no black people in certain positions? Or why is it that there's only one or two tokens in these positions who simply implement the same policies as the white guys before them? Why is diversity rejected by these institutions? And I just encourage you to really think about that, to really critically analyze it, ask the hard questions, find a way to confront it, but most importantly, protect yourself. And the way you protect yourself is you get your money right. When I went through the fire, I went through the fire. When Bill O'Reilly tried to get me fired at Syracuse, I had people that didn't even know who I was. I was just kind of getting started, in this old public scholar thing. I had people literally three or four promotions above me saying, who is this guy? I had multimillionaire donors calling the university saying, if you keep this person at the campus, we're not going to give money to this school anymore. I had people that were on my tenure committee who were going to evaluate whether I was going to get a promotion, telling me, or not telling me, excuse me, they told other people, but it came back to me that we should have got rid of him when we had the chance. So they were seeking to get rid of me, and the only thing that protected me was the fact that I had my own business, I had been saving my money, and I was prepared to deal with whatever the economic fallout would have been had they tried to push me out. So the thing is that it's not so much a matter of always being a courageous person. I'm not more courageous than other people. It's about being in a position where you can be courageous. So remember, managing your money and protecting your wealth, building your wealth, having your own business, all these other things, that is your armor in this battle. And if you don't believe you are at war, then you are stupid. Because guess what? War has been declared on you. Your black button has been declared for the last 400 years, and it's about damn time we start winning. Well, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, checking in from Pretoria, South Africa, about to head to Botswana. I'll hit you guys up again real soon, and I love every single one of you. Thank you so much for everything. Until we meet again, stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. I'm gone. Peace.